Today's guest on the podcast is Katie Marquez. This is the second episode with Katie, so if you want to watch the first episode, I put a card in the top right-hand corner. We talk about reclaiming things from our past after depression and just being busy with everyday life. And we talk about being inspired from the teachers that we had growing up. Enjoy the podcast. All right. What experience set in motion your biggest personal revelation? What was the event thing? What was your revelation, and how is that impacting you today?
That's a lot. That's an SAT question right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's a three-parter. Personally, because this is a personal podcast, it was probably when let's say getting kicked out of school, because that's a fun one. The entire state of Kentucky said, please leave. Okay, not the entire state, but, good chunk of people were like, hey, no. University, friends, work, it was just kind of like, it's time for you to go. And so I came to Atlanta here moved in with my parents, cool roommates. Yeah. And for like, I don't know, the first couple of months, I kind of depression napped on the couch for a while. And finally my mom was like, hey, are you going to do something, anything with your life? You're kind of just, you're a throw pillow at this point in time. Let's do something. And I had majored in so many different things in school: food science, equine science, architecture, interior design, graphic design, communications. So a lot. Like I have a wide variety of interests, but I never could find something that was really like, oh man, this is it. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I'm a good writer. I knew that from the jump. I mean, even from when I was little, I was a good writer. But I didn't know that there were options to have a professional career in writing besides being an author. And I do not have the attention span to write a novel. It's not going to happen. So when I found the school that I'm at now, learning about advertising and, learning the role of people who had a job writing that wasn't novels. It was short, snappy lines. Like there's a post going around that's like, girls say like, oh my God, I want to be the person that names nail polishes. Me, I'm a copywriter. I'm the person that names the nail polishes. I name the products. I write the big lines. I write the small lines. I write everything in between. And so finding that really kind of, first of all, it enabled me to let go as a writer. And then it enabled me to dive deeper into other things that I genuinely like to do. Like I started painting again. I'm not good at it, but I like it. And reading more, and just kind of, it opened me up to pursuing other creative things that that wasn't inside that box of what I thought writing and creativity was, being an author. It was so much more than that. It was sculpting, painting. I made a fountain, for fuck's sake. Just doing all sorts of other like wild, crazy shit that I was like, oh, I could never do that before. And now it's kind of like, what's the worst that could happen?
So are we finished?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you realized that there was actually an avenue for you, like after that worldview was shattered, the dam sort of broke on a bunch of other like hobbies.
Yeah. I was like, let's try everything. And I mean, even getting back into stuff that, okay, I haven't ridden a horse in 2 years. I used to own a horse. I rode every day. And now I'm actually like volunteering riding horses, for horses that need to be exercised, which is awesome, just to kind of get back into that. Not that I was ashamed of horseback riding, but I definitely was. Like in middle school, I was like, oh, I don't want to be a horse girl. That's the worst thing that could ever happen to me. I don't want to be branded as a horse girl. And now I'm like, I'm a fucking horse girl. Nay, bitch, nay. Like,
Damn.
Let's go balls to the wall. I don't give a shit. And I don't know if we talked about this last time, but I tweeted about how, like get back into those niche interests that you found before you were ashamed of them. Um, and for me, that's horses, painting, dragons, video games. Um, because I think a lot of little girls they go through like a really weird like occult phase where you get really into like hieroglyphics or Greek mythology or like there's
Vampires. I know a lot of
yeah,
vampire
something
girls.
weird. Like little like 10 to 11-year-old girls are fucking weirdos. And at some point we lose that weirdness. And I don't know. Dolly Parton said, you know, find what you're good at or find who you are and then do it on purpose. And I think I'm starting that do it on purpose point in my life. And it's fun. It's
Mm-hmm.
so fun.
That's awesome. I know a lot of people who have been in sort of the same deal where you said that you sort of went through all these majors and you couldn't find one that like was really you. And I feel like that's like the shitty part about the expectation of going to college is that like you're supposed to go, and even when you're there, there's still really not an avenue for you that's like really you. So it's
Yeah.
really unfortunate for a lot of people. And I know that like for you, it sort of took you to go through all those things in order to even like find that one avenue.
Oh yeah.
So that's very interesting. I want to know, were you ashamed of those things like making sculptures and stuff before you found that niche of copywriting, or was that something you just sort of like
I
just
think
sort of
I
back to
had
my first question? Sorry, keep going.
I think I had almost blocked it off as you can't do that. You're not artistic. What are you talking about?
I see.
And it was kind of losing that shame of I can try it and I can fuck it up. But on the off chance that I don't, it could be really fun. It could be really cool. Because I think a lot of the expectation about creating is that you have to share it with people. And you don't.
Hmm.
Who gives a shit? You can keep your poetry, keep your art, keep your whatever just for you. And as long as you like it,
Right.
that's a good piece of art to you. Because I used to write poetry in high school, but I never, oh my God, I would rather die before I shared that with anyone. But I liked it and I kept it. And it was a way for me to kind of, it was my angsty phase. So it was a good creative outlet for me.
Yeah. So it's like
And I think that's,
exercise.
yeah, exactly. You won't, creativity is, everyone needs to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, it's that adaptability, the ability to improvise, to think on your feet, to bullshit is useful in every aspect of life. Everyone bullshits things sometimes. Everyone lies. And I think that's, we'll call it being creative.
Okay.
But I just think everyone needs to be at least some small portion of creative. Even if you're like a doctor,
Mm-hmm.
you might have to find it. I am not a doctor, but you have to find a way to, solve some problem. If, this stitch isn't working, make up a fucking new one.
Yeah, creative problem
So,
solving, whatever you want to call it.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I always like to do was make stuff and like videos and stuff in Photoshop, and it wasn't really, none of the stuff that I made was really, it wasn't like consumable to like my peers. So that's when I learned pretty quickly that like I I guess my point of view growing up, just to do like a little comparison, is that I never viewed that as like commercial or something like that. It was always like I like would come home on certain weeks and I would feel like the need to, it's like I'm trying to like think of a good comparison, like every once in a while, it's not like a release, I guess, but it's like you have ideas stored up and then you need to vent the ideas, and then you feel like you don't want to do that stuff at all for like 2 weeks, and then like 2 weeks pass and you're like, okay, let me go back and like vent all those ideas out again.
Yeah.
And then it's like you like cycle them through. That's like, I think that's the best way to say it. And the coolest part about that is making like art, doing creative stuff is like a muscle, like you said. Like I know a lot of people who don't think they're creative, but like once they start getting the ball rolling and they keep like making stuff and it looks like shit, but like they have like a little bit of fun, so like they do it again and they
Yeah.
get better and better at it. And that's one of the things that actually sort of reshaped how I viewed failure, because I was really bad at making art, but since I wasn't showing it to anyone and I was having fun, I was like, maybe failure is really just about experience. And so ever
Yeah.
since then, I'm like, it's not that you're not creative or that you're not smart, it's that you're not experienced. So I think that's a really cool part about making stuff on the low, is that you get to um, cement that idea.
Yeah. You when you make something that's not for public consumption, you really get to know yourself. Um, and kind of going back to what I was saying about how everyone is creative and can be creative. I took an improv class at school. It was mandatory. We all had to do an improv class. And the teacher, she came in from her like job was like professional improv. Like that's what she did. Like 7 nights a week, she taught improv workshops during the day. And she said that she goes to a lot of like big like corporate, like big companies, like corporate C-suite type level people, and she teaches them to be absolutely fucking ridiculous in these stupid improv games because it gets you to loosen up, and it gets you again to think on your feet, and to if someone asks you a question in a presentation, you're able to dance around it and accurately answer it or accurately deflect it.
Right.
So yeah, that was one of the wildest things. She was like, "Oh yeah, I teach corporate people all the time. It's so weird to be in a creative environment." So again, it's useful for everyone.
Yeah, I think also it's one of those things where once you sort of get a hang of that and you get skillful, I guess, or comfortable, I'll say comfortable in that, is that you get more comfortable, I guess, is trying the ideas that you think of off the top. Like the improv thing. I never done improv before, but like being like growing up around people like Connor and Jacob, you have to be on your feet a lot. And so being in types of like those environments is that like you sort of um like you're constantly testing things you just thought of, which is what improv is,
Yeah,
right? Yeah. And it's really cool because
exactly.
that like transfers to problem solving across the board. So I think, and
Mhm.
it's really uncomfortable when you do that, because I'm like, I don't want to look like an idiot. Like that's improv. It's like I don't want to look like an
Yeah,
idiot. I don't want to make a dumb joke. Like I don't want to. But that's one of those things that as soon as you loosen up and you don't care if you look like an idiot, that's when you become like successful in that, which is just it's
oh
crazy to
yeah,
me. But that's the way she goes. Um.
yeah. That's how it goes.
So
That's the way the cookie crumbles. Sorry,
the
carry on.
no, you're good. So we wanted to talk about, you basically had a really good transition into it. So finding yourself after healing from depression, and that um I would say, like, I mean, you can tell me if this is true or not, but like you're the benchmark of you healing from depression is basically moving in with your parents and finding at school, finding like your niche, right?
Yeah. Um, and with depression, there's a hair in my mouth. With depression, I probably experienced about 3 significant episodes. Probably when I first found out I had depression, so like sophomore year, freshman year of college, when I had to go to the loony bin for a couple of days. Um, and then when I got politely asked to leave the state of Kentucky. So probably those are 3 big events that I remember when it was happening my freshman year. I was like, I already dealt with this. Why do I have to do this again? And so it's kind of, for me, I don't know if my depression will ever be cured. It's something that I always kind of have to adapt to, work around, work through, and learn to live with, because it's a chemical imbalance in my brain, and the only way to fix that is with medication, therapy, you know, whatever.
I understand.
solution you choose to take is
Hmm.
it's kind of a multi-pronged attack
Yes.
on it. But it's kind of like after the third time that it happened, I was like, I don't know if I will ever truly be totally cool. I might take medication for the rest of my life. And so kind of learning to roll with it, to roll with the punches, say, this is just part of who I am. It might never be fully healed, but I am still a whole person outside of this. I am not a depressed person. I'm a person with depression.
Were you reassured when you realized that you would always have it, or were you like, I know you sort of came to grips with it? Is it like, well, this is just how it's going to be? But was that more of like um a realist standpoint, like I have to go and live my life, or were you reassured the fact that like, actually, since this is like, you know what I mean? I don't know if I'm making that confusing.
No, no, I get it. I'm just trying to think if I ever thought about it like that, because nothing is guaranteed except for change. And I don't know, in a way I'm kind of comforted with it because that's something I'll get to have it for the rest of my life, and I don't know how many things I'll be able to say that about. It's my little buddy. But on the other hand, it's an illness.
Yeah.
So it's kind of half and half. I mean, and each time something bad happens, I pick up more skills to kind of work around it, work through it, work with it, instead of, I think the first time I was just trying to like squish it down, squish it down, squish it down, just get over it and get back to normal life. But now I'm just kind of like, what up, demons? It's me, your boy, type deal.
Okay.
It just kind of working with it. And
So,
like
sorry, keep going.
having ADD is it can be super awesome at times when you get into that zone and you like don't get up to like do anything. You are totally hyper focused on one thing for an extended amount of time. And then it can also be super shitty because I'm bouncing all over the place and I have to write everything down, otherwise it wanders out of my brain and will leave me forever and ever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's you kind of have to learn to wrangle your any deficiencies. Really, you kind of you got to learn them, and then you got to learn to work with them.
Yes, I think that's awesome because I think it's always about framing and perspective. Because if you
Yeah.
view those two things, I mean, obviously, depression at the end of the day is mostly like 100% like a disadvantage. I'll call it, which is very reductionist. I think it's obviously a
Yeah.
disadvantage, but ADD, if you that's really something that if you frame it in a certain way, then that's when it can actually like that's more so like playing to your advantages than framing, because like if you because it is an advantage, but if you try to live your life like a normal person who doesn't have it, that's when you're gonna like fall behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you change yourself up, but that requires you to face it and not squish it down, because for a lot of people it's like embarrassing, but it just takes you to get
Yeah.
over that hump where it's like, I mean, it's not really embarrassing because it's like I was sort of just born with it, so it's like I don't know. So and
Yeah.
then you
It's
use it from there.
like having brown hair, or it's just this is my thing that I have. I didn't
Yes,
pick it, but here I am.
exactly.
And I think that comes back to shame too. Being ashamed of being different or not neurotypical, or whatever your difference is that you're ashamed of. And comes down to those crucial points in your life where you try and make changes, when you're growing up, based on what you think is normal.
Mm.
Being around your peers and saying, oh, they're not doing this, I can't do that either. That's not. And not whether that's a hobby, or whether it's just a way of behaving, and it's just so you kind of get that feedback, negative or positive, from your peers, and you kind of have to shape that as shame becomes more prevalent growing up. because I think everyone goes through that phase when you're like 12 and you're like, this is the worst. Oh God, being like 12, 13 is just the fucking worst.
It is the
I mean,
worst.
it's just, you're like, don't look at me or I will spontaneously combust. I would rather like it. It sucks. It's the
Yeah.
worst. And you feel like no one else can understand you, but in reality, it's everyone's
Yeah,
just,
everyone can.
everyone's going through shit.
Mm.
And I think that's what Reed was talking about, how he was experiencing anxiety or depression. I can't remember which, or both, because they're not mutually exclusive.
Right.
Um, back in high school, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, were we all fucking depressed? And like, no one would obviously talk about it because, oh my God, we don't do that here.
Yeah.
We don't do that here.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that
Yeah.
is shame.
I think.
Yeah.
No, I think it's important that you bring that up because, like what you said earlier about Dolly Parton is that like I think it's your duty to go back in time and figure out what you were shamed out of, and so you can like go and reclaim that. Because, yeah, like I wasn't ever shamed out of making things so okay, let me backtrack. So the one thing that I did make for public consumption was the WikiClan gaming hoodies, and a lot of people like there were a lot of people who gave me shit for it, but at the end of the day, that didn't stop me then. But it did.
Yeah.
It did sort of thwart like a lot of my ideas. I was like, I'm not gonna make that because that's stupid. But in actuality, it was like, I guarantee you, if like these people didn't say anything, I probably still would have made it. So I wasn't completely stopped, but I stood on track. It was one of those things where like because people said some shit about it, I was like, okay, I'm gonna double down on this and I'm gonna keep going. Like it's like a typical like angsty kid. But in the background, I was like, I'm not gonna do anything like beyond it. So it took me until basically this year when I started making videos again. I started doing stuff on Photoshop where I sort of went back and reclaimed it. And the stuff that I'm doing now has nothing to do with video games, which is like what I think is like the I'll call it like archetypal, because it's like the reclamation of something I got shamed for back in the day, and I'm using it now to like apply it in like my adult life.
Reclaiming yourself, basically. I mean, from reclaiming you from you, or reclaiming it from shit that other people have said, or from a disability, or from an environment. Going back and just saying, nah, this is something I want to do, and my environment, myself, other people, it's not going to stop me from doing what makes me proud, happy, blah 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 blah, et cetera, et cetera. So that reclamation of self is powerful.
Yes, and
extremely
I think
powerful.
The one thing that I think is interesting is that, especially like so during high school and college, I thought that I was busy, and I thought that other people were busy. I don't know what I mean by that. Just like people didn't have time for a lot of things.
Yeah.
And then like once after college, I sort of realized that people just had time management issues, and people wanted to go out and just like drinking things. And it's funny because once you graduate college, everyone wants to hang out then. And I'm not saying like people didn't want to hang out with me. I'm saying that like people like never wanted to go and do extravagant stuff because they were worried about like schoolwork. They were like, you know what I mean? It's like, I need to like section off time. And then as soon as you have like a 8-hour work day and a 40-hour work week, there's no homework and there's no friends around you to go and drink and stuff. People want to do stuff like every single day. So and you learn that like really quick, I thought. And so that's the moment where if you do go through 1 week where you're free all the time and there isn't much to do, and this is like a perfect example with COVID, is that you're sort of faced to go back in time and find this stuff out. I feel like it's a free opportunity. I know that we texted about it, but like it is a free opportunity to go back and like for me, like I've been playing Call of Duty, the new Call of Duty, for like a disgusting amount of hours per day, and I feel like amazing. So I'm like, this is like actually the first time probably the only time that I get to do this. Yeah.
Because if you had a job, you can't play Call of Duty for an obscene amount of hours per day. And like, I would wake up probably right after okay, your Call of Duty is my Animal Crossing.
Mm-hmm.
So I would wake up and play Animal Crossing for like 2 hours each morning. And at least there's a, I don't know, at least there's a point to Call of Duty. Like there's an end goal. Animal Crossing is make a pretty house, make a fun little island. And it was mindless and I loved it.
Yeah.
There's a ton of articles actually about how Animal Crossing is healing the world from COVID because people were like, we can't go outside, so we might as well just go on our fake little islands and have a grand old time.
Yeah. No,
So
I think, yeah, I'm glad that you brought up Animal Crossing because I've had that so many times where I played. Is Animal Crossing on an RPG? Is it? Is it technically an RPG? I don't think it's an RPG.
I don't know. I don't know what it's listed under on the Switch store.
Okay. Well, whatever it is, um, games like RPGs like Fallout. A lot of people like Skyrim. Um, those
Yes.
sort of games where you do like lose track of time are certainly like the best
Mhm.
ones. I feel like because that's like for
Yeah.
times like these, for sure. And I don't think it's like I mean, it is
I don't need a
escapism, quote
distraction.
unquote, but it's like it's like rejuvenating. I feel like
Yeah.
escapism has like its own like drawbacks. Like it's a net negative. But I feel like
Mhm.
those sort of things are actually rejuvenating. They're not really escapism. Because it's a very different feeling. It's like pseudo fulfillment, which is why video games are so dangerous. But um,
Yeah.
some of it's like just pure pleasure driven, but the other part of it's like pseudo fulfillment. Because in Animal Crossing, like wow, like I'm building a very nice house. This is cool. I'm like collecting
Yes.
all of these things for. But yeah, I'm sorry. Continue.
No, I mean that's yeah, it's escapism is it can be bad when you actually have a physical place when you could be physically escaping, physically getting out and going outside and doing things.
Hmm.
But when you don't, you kind of have to find these other avenues of fulfillment, whether that be video games, painting. Like I really got this year that I got into painting. I can't remember, but I'm, trapped inside. And so it's kind of like, well,
Well,
I could do nothing. So you again, you kind of after you run out of things to do, you kind of get into all these other, if you've tried everything, you know, let's just go back in time and let's find something else.
yeah, I think I guess this
Oh,
is
can you
a
hear
diff-
me?
I can.
Sorry, my
No, you're good. Your screen was laggy a bit,
my
but you're
email
back.
keeps popping up. I don't know why.
Oh,
Okay,
okay. Um,
God, hold on.
hmm,
Anyways,
okay. I think that so I went through a really long period after. Okay, so no, I was losing weight on and off since the beginning of my sophomore year of college, and I could tell that over time I was becoming more and more rigid, and I felt like if I wasn't losing weight, I had this huge guilt that I needed to be doing something to
mhm.
like make progress. I need to be like planting seeds for the future, or whatever. So it got to the point where even if I was losing weight, I couldn't enjoy video games because I'm like, well, I could be reading a book or I can be like,
Yeah,
building a website. And so that got to the point where I was like sitting down on my computer and I would just have paralysis. I just wouldn't do anything. Like I would just be like on
yeah,
Reddit and I would be like, I should be doing something productive, but that would be like for 6 hours a day. And
yeah,
I would try to play video games and I would do stuff like I would play ranked League of Legends. This is after I hit like that spot on the leaderboards and I was like, well, do I have to like get a higher rank in order for me to enjoy this video game? So it was like this really
hmm
weird thing. So I just eventually, for the most part, stopped playing video games mostly because they weren't like rewarding to me, and it's just because my expectations were
yeah,
so high. Um, and so I always like for the past like 2 or 3 years, I just kept on doing super productive stuff during the day, and like all those things manifested positively for me, and they still do to this day. But going back and playing Call of Duty, I felt like a brand new human, like a human being, like for real. Like I haven't
yeah,
played Call of Duty like that in like years. And so to go back in time, I feel actually like I can go into that entire 3 year period again. But if you
yeah,
asked me like 2 weeks ago, I would have been like, I don't feel like I have any energy to move on, but it's like those
Yeah.
outlets are needed. Like I have a lot of conversations with my friends who are like hyper productive, and they're people who definitely going to go places, but they talk to me about that same guilt where they're saying like, yeah, like I played Call of Duty for like an hour today, but I can't help but think that I need to go and study. And it's like, well, study for what? And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I can be studying this, that, and the other thing. Well, it's like, but like, why? I don't know. Like, obviously,
Yeah. You
moderation is
need to have
everything,
time
but
to do nothing.
yes. So yeah, like I think that's
It's
super important.
oh yeah, like when people are asking, what are you up to? Nothing. They're like, okay, do you want to X? I'm like, no, I'm literally I have blocked out this point in my day to do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And um
Sorry.
doing exactly like guilt-free doing nothing is
Mm-hmm.
like John Mulaney said, in terms of like canceling plans is like crack.
It really is. Yeah, it really is.
If you don't want to do something and you're that cancellation text is just
Yeah,
it's
it's even better
fantastic.
when people cancel on you and they think you're gonna be
Yeah.
mad, and you're like, thank God.
And they're like, oh
Like,
God,
yeah.
I didn't want to do this either. Like the first like the second podcast try, we were like, I don't want to do this. And then we
Yeah.
just get in.
And it was for the better.
Yeah. Cause I sometimes I struggle with that because I really like doing nothing. And I'm kind of one of those people that's like, if I'm not totally enjoying what I'm doing, I'm just gonna stop, which, is good in some regards for like work and, professional things, but also like, there are some boring parts of your day. Like I don't love brushing my teeth, but like I have to do that. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
very, very fine line between doing nothing and literally doing nothing.
Yes, maintaining good habits, but also, yeah,
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Also, yeah, because if you do nothing, I feel like a lot of my times, if I like lose discipline on something like flossing my teeth, like
Hmm.
I try my best to floss my teeth once a night.
Yeah.
But if I go one night just brushing my teeth, because I have permanent retainers on my, so I have to do this special like threading. So I'm like, if I'm too
Yeah.
lazy one night, like if I come home and I'm like drunk or whatever, and I'm like, I don't want to floss my teeth, then I don't view that as doing nothing. I feel like that's like a duty. You know what I mean? It's like you gotta, because
Yeah.
that'll be like, whoa, that'll transfer itself across. Like if I don't do that, then like the next day, it's very easy for me to be like, I don't want to go to the gym either. But it's like you have to. I feel like
Yeah.
you have to maintain those habits because that's like the framework that sort of like holds your life together, in my opinion. Like the disciplined, what do you call them? Disciplined habits. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So doing
Yeah.
nothing, I feel what you mean. Like,
Self-discipline.
yes, thank you. So doing nothing, I feel like is doing nothing after doing those. Um,
Yeah.
what's it called? Because a lot of people, I think they feel like they need to take a break from their like disciplined habits, but in actuality, they just need to take a break and like treat themselves like it's okay to do something okay to not do something productive, like pseudo productive work. Because people
Yeah.
want to say like I'm gonna go and fill my time with like reading a book or like watching some like lecture or something, but it's like that's the stuff that drains you because you don't even like it. So as
Yeah.
soon as you actually fill that time with something you like, then it's like, oh, actually, I
It's like
really need
busy
to.
work. It's like
Yeah.
homework from like high school again. It's like I don't no thanks.
Yes.
Um, so because okay, I don't love working out, but I enjoy the after effects of it and I
Yeah.
enjoy what results from it. So while I might not be enjoying brushing my teeth, flossing, working out in that moment, I know that it's going to be good afterwards. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like, setting future Katie up for success because I like her so she can have a productive day
Yeah.
and not have nasty ass teeth tomorrow morning.
Yes. Um. What was I gonna say about that? Uh. Yeah. So I'll just tell a story about me losing weight. Like I told a story before about my epiphany of losing weight. There is no part of me that regrets any day that I ate healthy, or any day that I
Mm-hmm.
worked out or any day that I brushed my teeth, it always just sucked for like 2 seconds. Like when I was brushing my
Yep.
teeth, it sucked. But like when I was like working out for 30 minutes, it sucked. But it's like one of those things where it's like, even if you allow yourself to get, like, talking about dissociating is a whole different thing, but like working out, for example, like if you set yourself, I'm going to do like an hour on the elliptical, and you just like are thinking about the hour the entire time, and you're thinking about what you want
Mm-hmm.
to do when you go home. If you allow yourself to like get into it, like 15 minutes into it, that's when you get like hyped up and it actually starts to feel good during the actual act.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Um,
Mm-hmm.
what was I gonna say about the only thing that sucks about those things is that you can't, obviously, the whole entire principle of delaying gratification is that you can't see it. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to think of like, unless you can think of one off the top, like what a good like momentum starter is for like delaying gratification, because I know the ones that I personally did, like they were motivated by something much like, they were pretty like big issues that I had to deal with basically, and that sort of like set in motion for other things to improve. But for someone who like
Mm-hmm.
isn't morbidly obese, what do you think is like a good task to start building like good seeds every day? And it could be as simple as like working out, but I'm curious to hear what your take is.
I remember everyone's like, you know, if you can't floss every day, try and do it. Mr. Rice. You remember Mr. Rice?
Mm-hmm.
I remember him like he was like, y'all gotta floss. Um, he didn't say it exactly like that, but he basically like the gist of it was if you can't, you're not gonna floss every day. Pick a week or pick a night that's least busy and just do it then and start there and go from there. So starting small and building up. And it's it kind of it's I kind of had an all or nothing mindset for a while. Like if I can't do X perfectly, why try? And
Mm-hmm.
the thing is, half-assing something is still better than doing nothing.
Yeah.
Getting if you can't, and if you're in depression mode and you can't fully go and take a full shower, change your clothes, or take like wipe your face down with a washcloth. So if you can't do everything, do something.
Mm-hmm.
My dad has the saying, how do you eat a whale? One piece of sushi at a time. So kind of starting small.
Starting small.
That's yeah,
No, I agree.
and
I think,
whatever it is.
yeah, and for bigger tasks, it's about like going back to losing weight, because this is what I'm used to. Is people like to jump in, like if you're morbidly obese, people want to jump to straight 1,200 calories, only drinking water, um, and eating like not processed foods, but like
Yeah, that's
it's a,
hard.
it's
Cold
extremely
turkey is
hard.
hard.
And so yeah, like for me, before I even started losing weight, I stopped drinking pop, um, December of 2015, and I
Mm.
didn't drink it until, I guess you'd call it Game Fuels pop. Sorry, soda, for those who don't know what pop is. Um, sorry,
Coke.
Jake, and I think it's just Jake. Jake Toth gives me shit now because he's so used to not hearing pop. But
I know we say Coke down here. Everything's a Coke.
that's how does that work? I want a Sprite Coke. Like what?
Yeah, I
What?
mean, I don't know because I don't drink it, but yeah, everything's a Coke.
That's
Um,
weird.
so
Um,
every like carbonated beverage, Coke.
okay. So yeah, cutting
Sorry.
that out first. No, you're good. Because then that sort of
Yeah,
like, you're not like dependent on it. That's not part of your framework. Yeah. So it
yeah.
sucks too,
I
because
mean,
like I feel like you
going
and I are, sorry, keep going.
so like going vegan. A lot of people say, "Oh, I can never do that because I can't give up X."
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well then you can do all that other stuff and then still have your cheese or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But you're still doing good for animals, for yourself, for the environment, for whatever, without um you still have cheese every once in a while. So,
Right.
maybe you're not fully there, but, doing, again, half is better than nothing.
Yeah, the all or nothing. I like how you said all or nothing because that I know it hurts me. Like in all of my endeavors, you said it sort of got you in a lot, and yeah, I don't know like where that originates. I know it's like a foundational cognitive bias that like almost everyone has, but because for me, I'll just say like if the rate isn't at its maximum, I feel like I'm wasting my time. So if it's not like the most efficient way I can lose
Yeah.
weight, I'm like I don't want to do this. But that's like a fallacy. Like that's
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, the most efficient way you could lose weight is just not eat, but then you'll also starve and die, which is,
yes,
neither
not
here nor
ideal.
there, but,
Right.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So I want to go back to let's see what I want to go back to. I mean, it was basically just jumping back into the conversation. I want to talk to you about the creative process and mostly like not how you get inspired, but how do you choose which medium to apply, like to create something? Because you have like a lot of like I just use Photoshop and I
Yeah.
make videos, but you have like a bunch.
I do. Because, okay, let's see here. I paint, um, sculpt. I'd like to get into pottery. That sounds super fun. I've made hats. I sew. I write. It's my job. And, Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, what have you. And uh, I keep inspiration in the form of Pinterest and books. I have an ungodly amount of books, and whether it's more not self help, not like whether it's more like nonfiction, like one of my favorites is called Steal Like an Artist, and for someone who is trying to explore a new medium, and if you have an artist of any medium that you like, what you try to do is you try and steal their work, you try and emulate it yourself. Obviously, if you're new, you're probably not going to get it right to their level right away, but you learn through copying them basically. And as long as you're not like, selling it or trying to pass it off as your own, um, it's it's a really good way to learn, and it's a great way to stay inspired. Because okay, like the graphic with the woman saying fuck that I put on Instagram the other day,
Mm-hmm.
that one is like almost directly traced from an artist that I saw on Pinterest that I loved her work. And so I found one of the drawings, and then I traced the thing. So I had the image originally, and then I started moving things around, started adding my own colors, my own patterns, my own stretching and shrinking, things like that. So kind of taking it and making it something that was still my own, but I had a foundation. And that's why I like to edit. So like with writing, I'm confident enough to obviously produce my own work, and to from start from a blank sheet of paper and just go. But sometimes when it's a medium that I'm not as experienced in, I like to, if I'm less experienced in a medium, the more inspiration, copying I need, and I think people need in general, because then that's how you develop your own style. That's how you figure out what you like, um, and you kind of go from there.
Okay. Um, can you give me an example besides the Pinterest trace that you did that sort of I would say that hasn't been so recent. I'd say like I want to say like a few years ago, like when you came to ad school and you started doing stuff like sculpting and stuff. What was like one of the
Yeah,
first times where you actually emulated an artist that you liked and you sort of like I can do this or something like that?
I so I was applying to art school. This is before I had even gotten in, and I took my baby pictures and I made them into South Park characters. Um, so that was not baby pictures, but like, young child pictures. And so having a set style to emulate so I would know whether or not it was correct, but also having my own flavor because obviously it's me drawn in a South Park style. So
Mm.
that was probably one of the first times that I really was like, this is freaking cool, but it's me being, a foul, what I would like to think that I was in fourth grade, being a foul mouthed fourth grader, but obviously I wasn't. I was, fairly mild mannered back then. But
Okay.
so kind of again, it was a combination of other things that I love too, like, love animation, love art, love drawing, love um comedy, and so kind of to mash that all in together in that one little project was really, really fun for me, because I am such a huge South Park fan. So it was kind of me paying homage, but also me just having fun.
Mm.
Um, Even though it was for art school, which is, that was, it wasn't your typical college entrance essay. So
Yes. Hmm.
that's probably one of the biggest things that I can point to.
Okay. I think I remember you posting that on Instagram the first time
Yeah,
you were doing that.
it's there's a couple of them. There's I did one of me. I was pretty little, and it's like a Christmas card photo shoot that we had, and I kind of changed up the outfit on that one so I would look more like I was in the town of South Park. And then there's another one of me in like a Halloween cowgirl costume,
That's the one I
which
remember. Yeah.
yeah, um, which is one of my favorites because it's a pink cowgirl costume, and that's me. That's me. Um, and then there's I redid my sixth grade yearbook picture, which is a tragic picture. But I think everyone has to have tragic yearbook pictures, and if you don't, I don't fucking trust you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Exactly.
Um,
That's us.
so that one cracks me up because it is just I don't, who let me go to school like that? Why did I? Because you remember, like in sixth grade, you would take your picture before school, like during orientation. You remember that?
I don't.
So you would take it before, like when you would go get your supply list, like when you would go find out your
Yes, I do
community.
remember that now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
because it
so
was like in the next auxiliary gym, wasn't it? Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So you planned that shit out. You knew what was coming. So I literally made a conscious decision to fucking wear that and do anyways. So I made that conscious decision. It's hilarious to me now, but I remember opening up the yearbook and going, Jesus Christ, I hope this is not as good as it gets. Um, but it's hilarious now.
Yes.
So
I'm with that.
bad experience plus time equals comedy. I don't know if that's an
Yes,
official
actually.
formula, but yeah.
No, for sure. It's all about the time
Oh my
differential.
God. If you had told me 2 years ago that I would be laughing about getting politely escorted out of the state of Kentucky, I would have said, fuck you, let me go cry in my corner and be a human throw pillow. Now, oh my God, thank God that happened. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I think
Um,
it's honest. Okay, I had this conversation. I think it was with Reed about how messed up it is the fact that you do have to go through all those things, but then there's one day where you wake up and you do view those 2 years or however long like the thing that you went through was, and it's like you don't feel any residual pain anymore, but you know what happened and you know it exists. But it's like I don't know. There's something very odd about that, like feeling of acceptance, even though all that shit happened and you went through like those days. Like there were like a year, like my entire junior year of college, I did nothing, and I was extremely depressed. But it's like now I look back on it, and I'm like, yeah, I learned so much, and like that was like necessary. Whether it was necessary or not is how I'm gonna frame it because I chose to like grow from everything that happened. But it was
it's
like,
character development.
why am I not angry? It's like I feel a part of me still
Well,
feels like it's just weird. Like I don't know. The part that we can't feel residual pain is like maybe it's not as novel as I'm making it out to be, but I think it's
it
very
is.
odd.
You can't define you can't like pinpoint, okay, after this many seconds have passed, I'm gonna be okay with it now. But
Yeah.
it's really amazing how, whether it's conscious or subconscious, that you can kind of remove yourself from that situation and look at it from a more objective point of view and say, that's part of my character arc now. Because
Yeah.
okay, every good story, whether it be a book, a video game, a movie, a TV show, or whatever, has conflict. Um,
Mm-hmm.
There has to be some like problem that is solved, or something to be overcome. You can't. It would be so boring if it was just flat, because there would be
Yes.
nothing to learn, nothing to grow from. Um, okay, Game of Thrones. That whole fucking book series, not movie, TV series is just fucking one conflict after another. That's why it's so good, because there's so many different fucked up things happening. But then at the end, well, depending on whether or not you liked the ending, um, it sort of pays off as grow through it and learn from it.
Yes. So you talked about
Right.
Mr.
Okay.
Rice earlier, and I want to ask you which teacher, I guess, inspired you to do the most outside of school.
So I actually have a list of all my English teachers that I keep in the front of my notebook. Just because I look back and I wish that I fucking would have listened to them when they were like, Katie, you're a really good writer. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm probably gonna go into business or some, I don't know, some other stupid shit. I wanted to be a dentist for a really long time. Did you see me being a dentist?
Hell no.
I don't know.
Actually, I could,
I think
because like you'd have the personality for it. You know what I mean? But like,
yeah.
I couldn't see. Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't see myself studying to become a dentist.
There you go.
So brief history of my schooling. I started off in Montessori. You know what Montessori is?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just kind of a fucking free for all. My teacher was an absolute hippie. I loved that woman. And so I started off in Montessori school, and I was there for a couple years. And then my parents were like, you know what's a good idea? Catholic school. They literally took me from the most hippy dippy, free flowing, easygoing, wear whatever you want school to rigid ass Catholic school where you were in like I was going to like church like 3 times a week when we were in Catholic school. Like, it was a
Jesus.
lot. Like it's like twice during the week, and then like my parents were like, we have to go on Sundays. I'm like, why? I've already been twice. I punched my stupid card, you know. So and then I came to Hudson, and that's when we moved to Hudson, and we started public school there. I came there in 4th grade, I believe, and on the first day of school, I learned the F word, public school.
Right.
And I didn't know what it meant because hold on, I'll circle back. But I didn't know what it meant because I remember the girl, she was like, oh, we saw my brother and I, we were at the playground and we wanted to go on the swings, and these older kids told us to get off the fucking playground. And I was like, and and she thought I was just being cool about it, but I literally was like, I have no idea what that means. I had never heard that word before in my life. I was like,
That's
okay,
funny.
cool.
Nice.
Right on.
Nice.
But so back to my list of teachers. So my Montessori school teacher definitely influenced me because you were allowed to do pretty much whatever you wanted in the classroom. So I learned to, okay, it took me like 2 years to become potty trained. I learned to read in like a week. And I had like, I was pretty good. I was a good reader. So like, and the person that really encouraged me to do that was Mrs. Chorian. So Mr. Chorian, her son taught at the high school, but Mrs. Chorian was a 5th grade teacher. And that was about the time where they started doing the gifted kids classes. And so she gave me all these books to read, and I would fly through them, and then we would discuss them. Like, I would stay in her class to like discuss like books during recess. Like, that's how much of a little fucking nerd I was. But I loved her, and I still think about her all the time, and her encouraging me to read. And I remember she told me about The Book Thief. I don't know if you've ever read that. Marcus Zuzek. It's a Amazing, amazing book about it's narrated from the point of view of Beth during World War II Germany. Amazing, incredible book. And so she was like, you should read that when you're older. And I'm in 5th grade. And I was like, I'm gonna read it now. And I didn't get it really back then, but I just reread it again this year, and it's an amazing, amazing book. Highly recommend that. And then Mr. Stanley, who was our 7th grade English teacher, and he had us do all sorts of dope stuff where we would like analyze Beatles and like Simon and Garfunkel songs to like find deeper meaning in them. And we're a little 7th grade assholes, so none of us like gave a shit. But looking back, that is so cool.
Yeah.
So props to him. And then Mrs. Lucas, she was like the 8th grade accelerated English teacher. To this day, that is the hardest English class I have ever taken in my entire life. To this day, when I am writing, I am thinking about her grammar rules, and like I hated her back then, and now I'm like, you're a real one. Thank God for you, because now I know how to like properly write and articulate things.
Okay.
Two more. Mrs. Vonville was cool as hell. I absolutely adored her. She had a great personality, and she was just so encouraging and so bright and happy all the time that I think I started to actually enjoy English class again.
I will say, Mrs. Bonville was the first teacher that you mentioned that I actually had, and she was amazing. And we had to do a, did you have her for AP Lang? So do you remember the Moment of Clarity project we had to do? Yeah. So we had to make like a what do you call it? Like a voice memo of it too. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And so I turned mine in,
God.
and I did like all right in that class. I just never read, and my writing skills were just all over the place. But I got like a perfect score in that, and then she said that I had a podcast voice, and I was like, that's the first time I ever got like a compliment. I was like, wow, that's really nice. And that was the first time anyone ever said anything about podcasts.
You should email her. You should email her this.
No, I should.
Like these links.
Oh, I should.
You definitely should.
I should.
I got you.
Okay, thank you. I need to figure out her email though.
She's an awesome teacher. Awesome teacher. She's definitely still teaching at Hudson. Just look it up on the Hudson website.
I need to remember what the format was, the email format. Then I'll probably just figure it out. I think it was just, whatever. I'll look it up. But yeah,
anyway,
that was yes, Mrs. Bonville.
She was an awesome teacher. She's so cute. I loved her. I also really liked the open letter that we had to do when we were coming in. Do you remember that one?
I don't.
You had to write an open letter to not necessarily a person, but I remember she read off one that was like an open letter to Rainbow Road from Mario Kart, and it was hilarious. I cannot remember for the life of me who read that.
Oh, now I need to remember who I did. Oh no.
I did Ohio's weather, which like 3 other people did, and I remember getting like marked off on that, and I was like, how the hell was I supposed to know that other people were gonna pick that?
I need to remember what mine
only
was.
book I had to pick.
I don't know.
Think about it. See if you can find that. I wish I still had my Chromebook and I could like go through all those old projects. And then the last one, Mr. Cosman. So after I got a 2 on my AP language test, Mrs. Vonville, if you're watching this, I'm so sorry. I loved your class. I was just not very good.
I didn't get
the AP test part. Keep going. But so senior year, I decided I was like, I cannot do another accelerated English class. This is my last year. I'm gonna take it easy. So I did the senior lit with Mr. Cosman, and only having him for a semester, but he totally influenced my writing style and what I have going on to this day, my career path basically. So yeah, that's my list of very influential teachers in my life.
Dude,
that have
hell yes,
inspired me to write. But if I did have to teach a class, okay, I'm going to ask you a question. If I had to teach a class throughout any let's say you're teaching at Hudson. I would teach health and art tech, because health was a hilarious class with Mr. Rice, because he would make you stand up in your chair and like yell vagina if you were too quiet in class.
That's right.
Because humiliation. That is how we conquer shame. Everyone has to get up and yell gonorrhea. Ready,
Word,
go.
word.
And then Mrs. Stump was just cool as hell too. I remember we did a project with Peeps. We had to make a scene out of only Peeps. Like a what other art project? Like no one, no one does that. That's awesome. Just
Mm-hmm.
Peeps. Like make a scene with Peeps. And we had like a castle, and we like it was like a Peeps battle. It was the chicks versus the bunnies.
It's like improv,
All
and
right,
that's your prop. You only have peeps, and so you got
exactly.
to
She
make
was like,
something.
it was literally like a Peeps sponsored contest, and she was like, "It's Easter. This is what we're doing." And we were like,
That's cool.
and of course, like in 8th grade, everyone's like, so lame. And in my head, I'm like,
Yeah.
this is the fucking coolest thing ever, and I get to eat Peeps during class. Awesome.
Yes. I would have
So,
to
what class
say
would you teach?
it would have to be like graphics. Like Mr. Ondash was like the coolest, and Mr. Stonestreet,
Oh,
because you're supposed to make like a clock in woods and stuff, and like you're making a
yeah,
clock, and I'm coming from like trying to get like perfect grades, and I'm making a clock, and I'm like, this isn't perfect, this isn't like sanded to perfection and stuff, but it's the entire time
yeah.
like you know what I mean. So it's like those sort of classes were cool, and then graphics,
That's exactly it.
yeah, and then graphics on Dash was just really cool with like making you do like very foundational skills of Photoshop. He wasn't like really letting anyone like fly past things, and that's one of the things that I really like
Yeah.
about like now when I'm using the pen tool in Photoshop. Like I remember everything he said about the pen tool
Oh yeah.
when like I was using it in class. I'm like, I get the gist of it. You just like hold, move these anchors, blah blah blah. But when he was like going through the intricacies of it, and he was being like very
Yeah.
like
Like, you
rigid
always have
about
to
it.
go in the direction that you're continuing to go. I think about that all the time when I'm drawing
Yeah.
in design. Yeah.
So just stuff like that, and I feel like that's the sort of like teaching style that I like. Like I don't like teaching straight up.
Math.
I wouldn't want to teach, yeah, like anything that's like very like discrete or like fact based. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Like I would rather have something that's like, I would rather teach you the tools and like the gist of something, and then like
Yeah.
I'll like guide you to see like what you're making and like where you're going from there. I think that's a great question, Katie.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, I got it from you.
Nice. And I do want to say about Mrs. Vaughnville is that I did not do shitty on my AP Lang and Comm test because you didn't teach me well enough. Is that I was too angsty to improve my writing skills. I would get so angry when I got my bad grades, and I didn't get angry at Vaughnville. I just got angry at myself. I'm like,
Yeah.
what am I doing wrong? And then I would go to
Yeah.
college and write lab reports, and we did this thing where we had like anonymously posted our lab report sections like one by one, and people would like look at it as a class discussion. We'd go through it, and like they would say like, this is like good writing, but it's all over the place. And that's what Mrs. Vaughnville would always say to me. It's like it's all over the place. And it wasn't that I was like dumb or anything. It was that like it was just very sporadic ADHD level where it was
Yeah.
like,
Mm-hmm.
here's this chemistry
Yeah.
concept, but let's talk about this. Okay, back to the chemistry concept. Let's talk about this. Like, so it was
Yeah.
all scattered. But the thing about high
I
school, I
never
think you're telling me
supported
is,
anything. I was just like, here's what it is. Take it or leave it. And that's
yes.
not okay. You can't do that.
Well, what I was going to say about it's the thing about, like if I were to go back to high school now, I would appreciate every part of the learning process, if this is going to make any sense at all. Like the part about AP Lang and Comp that I liked or that I didn't like was all the writing that you had to do. Like she made us do writing like all the time. You remember
Mhm.
that? It was
Yeah,
like
I remember my
once or twice a
handwriting.
week.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I feel like for me the issue was like a humility thing because I didn't know where to start. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
I think that's a problem a lot of Hudson kids have because, like, talking about it's okay to be not perfect sometimes because there's a lot of pressure to do well, to do good, to go to a good college, to get a good job, to blah, 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 blah,
mhm,
to reproduce and then have more Hudson kids. Which, if
right.
that's what you want to do, that's perfectly fine. But it can be very crippling too to have that kind of pressure put on you by whether it's your town, your parents, yourself, the school, whatever environment you're in.
Yeah.
Um, it was just like I remember saying, "Oh yeah, I wrote my college essay in class," and some people like that I went to college with were like, "What?" And I was like, "Everyone went to college. That's just what you did. You graduated high school and then you went to college."
Mhm.
So that kind of the art and then the not fact based thing I think is where a lot of that loosey goosey kind of it's okay. You're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
Um, comes in, and I really liked that about that kind of, again, like you said, the grounding, the leveling, just being, you're a person. People make mistakes, and that's okay. And you don't have to be so hard on yourself.
Yeah. And I think one of the hardest parts about being a teacher, now that I'm thinking about it, is the fact that, like, not that you're on autopilot, but like it's very hard to slow down and take every single day, day by day, and every single person, person by person, because like obviously like life moves super fast. So I don't put any blame on, because teachers at Hudson were like honestly amazing. Like I can't think of a single teacher where I'm like,
Oh yeah.
you shouldn't have your job. Like every single teacher like had their own, like we're playing like a significant role there, and so I can't be more thankful that I went to Hudson. Like people from Hudson, like there are so many edgy kids who are like, oh, I can't wait to get out of Hudson when I go to college, blah blah blah. Like I think that's some of the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Like I think it's, to be proud of Hudson is something, to be from Hudson is something you should be proud of.
Yeah.
Oh, there was one thing I want to say. You can feel free to interrupt me. I just want to remember what I was going to say on the way
No,
out
you're good.
about um
About
it was
teachers.
about like the humility thing. I think yeah, it's about the failure thing that you were saying about, like, going to college. And even if you do go to college, it's like you can't go to Kent State. It's like you can't read, you can't write Kent State. I
Yeah.
would say right here, right now, that two of my adult mentors went to Kent, and they're by far the most successful of my mentors. The other
Yeah.
ones went to John Carroll, and they are very successful. John Carroll's not a bad school by any means, but it's, in terms of like a Hudson senior talk, like discussing colleges they want to go to, that's probably like in the C tier, where it's like, yeah, bro, I'm going to like this and the other thing. So just because you go to an Ivy League school, A,
No,
doesn't mean
Kentucky
you'll be
is C tier.
huh?
Kentucky is definitely C tier. I give John Carroll at least B minus, C plus. Kentucky's
Yeah,
like C minus.
there were two Hudson teachers who went to John Carroll, which sort of inspired me to go there. But um,
Yeah.
yeah, getting into the college you want won't even guarantee you success. So it doesn't even matter. I mean, really, it's about you. But
Hey, you might get kicked out.
you might get kicked out. Yes. So hey, I think that this was an, you bringing up English teachers is awesome, because now I want to email everyone and tell
I
them.
know. I'm like, I can't wait to like write thing. I don't actually. I'm really excited to take a picture by my very first billboard when it goes up, and send it to all my English teachers and be like, "Look, I wrote it. You
That's
taught me
gonna
to
be
read and
awesome.
write, and now I do billboards." Like, can you? I don't know. I think it's so wild that like, my Montessori teacher, who taught me to literally read and write, and now I write for billboards. That is a fundamental thing that she taught me how to do, and now I do it for a living. That's
Yeah,
wild,
for sure,
wild. Like
for
I
sure.
remember, I was helping a girl. She one of my friends, she was just starting to ride at the barn with me, and she already knew how to ride horses, but I was like kind of helping her get to know our horses and where everything was, and getting her set up for the first time. And I remember, just I don't know, making conversation with her. I was like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? And she was only a couple years younger than I was. And she was like, oh, I want to be a zookeeper. I was like, that's fucking cool as fuck. She just got into vet school like last week.
That's
That's
awesome.
wild. That's wild. I like helped her on, and she's going to study equine science, so that's why it's especially important.
Okay.
But I was like, I put you on this horse for the first time at our barn where you're still riding at, and that was years and years and years ago, and now you're gonna go be a big girl. You're gonna go be a vet, and I just think that's really, you don't realize how much you impact other people until it kind of gets put into perspective like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, no, I'm thinking about that now. I'm like, yes, because that's
It's
just a
wild.
massive like aspect of life that like you can't
Yeah.
even condense, because that's just it's a feeling. It's not even a, yeah. Yes. So Katie, great question. That was sick. I would 10 out of 10. That's what I have to say.
Sweet.
Um so that's that. I think this is a good point to end, because we're at an hour and 20.
Jesus
Um
Christ.
just about. But if you have any plugs or anything you want to say on the way out, now is your chance.
Plugs. Be nice to one another.
Okay. Be nice. I think I could probably do that.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Katie says, be
Be a good
nice
person.
to what person?
Don't
Good
be a
person.
dick.
All right.
Don't be a dick.
If you
I
made it
feel
this
like if you're
far,
not a dick, that kind of covers everything. Sorry. Keep going.
no, you're right. That's 80% of it. If you made it this
The
far,
outro.
thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe, like and subscribe, pretty please. And tell a friend. That'd be cool too. All right. Peace.
Phone a friend.